Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're across this great world of ours. I was looking at the news this morning when I got up, and I noticed a thing about Wounded Knee and how uh, uh, Department of War, Department of Defense, Pete Hegseth wanted to change the the medals from Wounded Knee. And my concern and is not uh, typically this is not a Republican or Democrat thing, but I think this is more of a policy issue. And I often think the best way to solve issues is not necessarily look at the rhetoric on both sides. And right now, my contention is I think we're at the cusp of really where we need a third party. That we're not looking at the total right and total left, but for society to succeed, for the most part, you have to work between the aisles and come up with a consensus. And right now, that's not happening. Government is broke. Not whether it can be fixed or not. Over time, it'll happen, but but this is a contention that this happened well within, when the Whig Party, and then you had the Know Nothing Party, and then you eventually had the formation of the Republican Party, and then the Democratic Party. But the point of this is not about politics. The point of this concerns policy. And the policy I'm concerned about is Wounded Knee. Now, when Wounded Knee happened, and I'm not going to make a long because I could spend hours talking about Wounded Knee and all that. During this period of time, and this goes back to, and my contentions, even this goes back to John C. Calhoun when he formed the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and it's my contention, and still is contention to this day, the Bureau of Indian Affairs is an obsolete organization, and I think it was from what my research is showing, and me taking some classes concerning law, and though I am not a lawyer, but my research into this is that it is an illegal organization and needs to be defunded, and because it's almost like you're a concentration camp. What FDR did with the Japanese Americans on the West Coast in a familiar situation where he put Japanese Americans in a concentration camp. Not necessarily are we talking about Japanese Americans. Here we're talking about Native people that existed in this region from the dawn of civilization. And the point that I want to make about this is going back to Wounded Knee. This is a situation where the government went in there and massacred many women and children, and the point out of it was when at the time the military or the did an investigation, found there were atrocities committed, and those atrocities committed uh, was more I would call even a form of terrorism, modern day terror. I would say modern day, but 19th century terrorism that occurred on American soil, and those people, those commanders, should be held accountable for the killing of innocent children and also women. The basic premise here is that the use of terror or terrorism should be used to what's the word I'm looking for? And I'm sure the situation where Hessex or Pete Hessex is talking about, and I'm probably sorry that I'm pronouncing his last name wrong, is that he sees things in a more of a the side of the Department of Defense, or what he now calls Department of War. But the point was there were atrocities committed. It's just the same thing with when Hitler got rid of the Jews, encamped them, and he was later, though he committed suicide himself, this people were still held accountable for those war crimes. And the case in point here is those people, commanders, who made that decision to to kill innocent women and children, should be held accountable for those war crimes. Now, in essence, does that mean that they should lose their medals? Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind, because that was it's not any different than, say, somebody taking into account, uh, for instance, someone uh, saying taking it above their horse's role as as a commander above the legislature and the judicial. In other words, what these commanders were doing is they became judge, jury, and legislator all at the same time in exterminating innocent women and children. And all this, like I said, stems from the fact that we can even go back to Thomas Jefferson, who used the words noble savages well into 1803 to 1809, and believed, Thomas Jefferson believed that Native Americans could be civilized and taught Christianity. And the issue that becomes out of Wounded Knee is the issue is that farmers, ranchers wanted to put the Native Americans, or and I shouldn't laugh about it, but more or less what they did is they forced them on reservations, and a lot of these reservations had very limited resources like a water, food, and everything. So in essence, what part of the issue becomes is these people, well, in the 18 uh, uh, wanted to what I call the powers to be in the 1890s wanted these the Native Americans forced so that the ranchers would not lose their cattle, or this intimidation, the white settlement spirit of Native Americans. And the issue becomes all these people wanted was a voice heard, and their voice wasn't being heard. And like I've stated previously, this, for the most part, I believe this happened under Benjamin Harrison's um, presidency, and there was one of the reasons when he ran in 1890 to Grover Cleveland would win, and or could have put this is between Harrison's tried to run for a second term, so this actually probably happened in 1892 because uh, what you call it would run in 1896 McKinley, but part of this is in 1892 would be the McKinley tariffs, and also would be the issue on Wounded Knee, and these are issues that would affect Benjamin Harrison not getting elected. And there again, like I said, a lot of this emphasis goes on forcing or genocide on Native Americans. And like I said, actually, in actuality, these folks or these commanders should be charged with war crimes, and I think that's something that needs to be looked at some later date, so that things will that even though they're long gone and dead, that to put on their records, the military records, that this is a war crime should be something that should be addressed, because there again, we're talking about this is terror against innocence in all intent purposes. My issue becomes, even though Native Americans have their own separate entity or separate thing because of the fact of the Interior Department, they are still civilians of the United States. So with that said, this is some food for thought for this. Please like and subscribe to my videos. I've been really swamped with things, so hopefully in the next few weeks I'll get caught back up on my videos. And I'm also forming a nonprofit Safe and Clean Water, please reach out to that and get that and donate to that as well. Anyway, I hope to talk to you soon and have a great day. Bye.